There's no doubt that snook are one of the most popular fish in Florida. They put up a hard fight, are very fun to catch, and are a delicious meal after a long day of fishing.
Good job, bud.
Snook fishing is a staple in the Sunshine State and is well worth the effort even if you're visiting for a few days. In this video, we'll cover everything you need to know about snook fishing in Florida, the best spots to check out, the best times to catch them, how to target them, and much more. But before we dive in, be sure to like and subscribe to watch more videos about the hottest fishing spots around the world. There's no other place on earth like Florida when it comes to fishing. Amazing year-round weather, untouched wilderness, and a state that really cares about preserving its natural beauty. All of these factors create incredible fishing opportunities. Snook fishing is one of the most popular angling activities in Florida, and it's earned its place at the top. They rule the inshore waters on the Gulf Coast from Tampa Bay down to the Keys and even all the way back up the Atlantic side to Fort Pierce. Anglers argue heatedly about where the best snook fishery is. Some claim it's Jupiter, while others cite Boca Grande as being the ultimate snook fishing mecca. Our verdict is that you should try them all. If you're heading out from the Atlantic coast, a go-to spot for snook fishing is Sebastian Inlet. The mouth of the inlet is a great spot to get started, as well as the St. Sebastian and Indian rivers. According to locals, the snook here can grow to impressive sizes, which makes it a great area for targeting slob snook above the 5-pound
Here
range.
we go.
Another place to check out is Fort Pierce. You can target snook here year-round, however the best fishing takes place during the summer months. You'll find plenty of them roaming the waters of the Fort Pierce Inlet as well as Vero Beach. If you're in Miami-Dade County and would like to combine fishing with some fun in the sun, you're in luck. Snook fishing in Miami is a main attraction among experts and beginners as well as locals and visitors alike. Night fishing in Miami for snook is extremely popular. However, heading out in the early morning has proven to be quite rewarding as the bite is usually best around sunrise. That only covers about a portion of snook fishing along the Atlantic side. However, the Gulf Coast is arguably even more productive. You can find snook everywhere here from the Keys all the way up to Cedar Key. Fort Myers Beach is a great place to get started if you're fishing on this side of Florida. It's one of the most prolific spots for snook fishing, and its entire surrounding area is also blessed with a sizable population of these fish. The waters around Pine Island, Cape Coral, and Captiva are particularly gratifying. If you want to experience Florida's last untouched wilderness, then you have to go snook fishing in the Everglades. Large specimens roam these waters all the way up to Marco Island in Naples. Boca Grande is another go-to spot. Known as the tarpon capital of the world, you'll be happy to know that this town offers unparalleled snook fishing opportunities as well. The flats and marshes around Gasparilla Island are especially rewarding. Then you've got Tampa Bay, one of the most famous inshore fishing spots in Florida, and it also happens to be a snook breeding ground. Just a bit more to the south is Sarasota Bay, with its east shoreline filled with wild mangroves, making it a premier snook fishing spot. And last but not least, you got the Florida Keys, the one place in Florida where you have easy access to both the Gulf and Atlantic sides. Snook love roaming these tropical waters, and you'll find them around any structure including docks, piers, and mangroves. Now that you have a better idea of where some of the hottest snook fishing spots are, next we'll take a look at when the best time of year is to catch one. Snook are available all year round in Florida waters. However, they have very distinct migrational patterns, which is why it's important to determine when and where to head out in search of your next trophy. As the weather starts to warm up in the spring, snook tend to slowly move out of the rivers, creeks, and canals onto the flats. This is a great time to head over to the Everglades. They'll move towards passes and inlets while the water begins to warm up, so the best spots to cast a line from are bridges and docks where they tend to feed, especially at night. As the waters continue to warm up throughout the Sunshine State, snook fishing in Florida during the summer is excellent. Most anglers continue to fish along the passes and inlets, but it's the beaches around the inlets that will be the most productive this time of year, like in Florida's Fort Pierce, for example, as well as any beach with structure. Fall marks the end of the spawning season, and this is when snook start to go back to the backwater areas and away from inlets. Look for bridges and docks and try chumming using live bait, as it can be really productive. The Florida Keys are especially great in the fall months. Snook are hungry at this time of year, and they're more than ready to go after your bait. And since snook aren't fans of the cold, winter is perhaps the least productive season for targeting them. However, that doesn't mean you won't catch one or two. At this time, they move back into the creeks and rivers as these waters tend to be a lot warmer than the open flats. That about covers when and where to target snook, but what about how? Be sure to keep watching to find out what some of the best snook fishing techniques are. There are more than a few ways to target snook in Florida's waters. The two most common techniques are sight casting and fly fishing. In terms of equipment and bait, most anglers will use spinning tackle with a light lure, which gives them enough leverage to handle larger fish. Most enthusiasts prefer targeting snook on lighter tackle, not only because of the challenge, but because of the thrill it provides as you feel every single pull and leap as the fish jumps in and out of the water. Bait casting tackle can also be pretty effective, especially in the hands of more seasoned anglers going after bigger snook. It's especially effective when using heavier lures like plugs, as this setup can provide much more power. You can also use it around bridges and other structures when fishing with larger live bait. Snook are opportunistic and aggressive feeders, which means they'll take any bait if you present it right. You can use both artificial lures and live bait, but lures might have a bit of an upper hand. Lures can more effectively trigger and encourage them to bite, and they allow you to cover a lot more water than live bait. Spoons can also be an excellent option if you're fishing on shallow flats. And finally, and most importantly, once caught, be sure to handle the fish with care. Make sure to hold them horizontally with both hands. Get your photo, and let the fish go safely. We're sure you're excited to get started, but before you head out, it's important to note that snook is managed by two regions in Florida, the Atlantic and Gulf of Mexico. Regulations apply in state and adjacent federal waters, so it's very important to know where you're fishing and to familiarize yourself with the local rules and regulations. Depending on the season and whether you plan on fishing the Atlantic or the Gulf side, snook remains catch and release only in some parts. Be sure to head over to myfwc.com to check out the most up-to-date regulations in the area you plan to go fishing. And last but not least, if you're fishing on your own and you're above the age of 16, remember to purchase a license before you head out. On the other hand, if you're fishing with a licensed captain on a saltwater charter, your license will be included in your trip. And when you're finally ready, FishingBooker is here to help make planning your trip a breeze. You can find a Florida snook fishing trip by downloading our app from the Google Play or App Store, or by simply visiting fishingbooker.com. With hundreds of local guides, verified reviews, and hassle-free online bookings, you'll save time and money and experience an exciting day on the water. So go ahead and download our app or visit us online and start planning your snook fishing trip in Florida today.